Yeah.
You're shooting out of cannons, you're swimming, you're riding on Dory.
Mario straight up punches people.
The music's better, too.
Mario has worn a lot of hats over the years, but perhaps his two most famous turns has been as a hero and a driver. Today, Austin Hargrave, Gerard Khalil, Jared Knabenbauer, and Shane Gill join me, Forrest Lee, as we decide which of these N64 Mario classics is better. It's Super Mario 64 versus Mario Kart 64, and this is madness. Let's open up the floor. Anyone have any points they want to start out with?
Super Mario 64 is a good game.
This seems like a pretty unfair matchup, to be honest.
You just came out and said Superman 64 is a good game?
Super Mario 64.
Oh, I heard Superman. I was
Cut
like,
it out,
that
cut it.
was a different...
Yeah, this actually is a pretty rough matchup. I mean, Super Mario 64, it's shooing to him, right? I mean, am I getting ahead of myself here?
I think you're getting ahead of yourself.
A point here that we should probably start out with. Yeah, this seems like kind of an unfair matchup, but Mario's always kind of been like a face for mechanics, right? Rather than like actually having a world worth exploring. And in these games aren't really that different in that regard, right? Super Mario 64 is very much the 3D platformer where Mario just got to explore that. And Mario Kart 64 is like the kart racer of the 90s, right?
Yeah, but I mean, Super Mario, like the Super Nintendo version, I mean, I actually prefer that one. Am I crazy? I actually prefer that one to the N64 game?
Probably crazy. Yeah.
Okay.
I actually like Mario World more myself. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
But that has no bearing on Mario 64 versus
That's
Mario
fair.
Kart 64. I think what this really comes down to between the two is which one had more replayability.
The replayability is definitely an important part of the worth of these games. There's a lot of content in Super Mario 64, right?
Yeah.
And it's definitely worth retouching every once in a while. But Mario Kart's multiplayer,
That does
makes
give
it
it a lot of
inherently replayable, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, that's true. I think one of the few things about Mario Kart 64 is that, one, in my opinion, it hasn't aged very well. It's a rough game. I feel like every Mario Kart game after 64, you could pick back up and feel that there's not really an age to it that's like as rusty as it was for the 64. And two, I think it's like one of those things where the nostalgia factor of like, oh man, my dorm room playing Mario Kart, or oh man, when I was a kid, Mario Kart. But nowadays, you should pick it up and play. It doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't have that same quality of life that it once
Let me
has.
pose this question to you. The fact it hasn't aged as well, a little like kind of rough around the edges. Do you think that's a fault of the game itself, or particularly the Nintendo 64 hardware?
Yeah, well, also, are we judging it based on when it first came out, or are we judging it now today? That's also something I'm not even really sure about.
It's whatever you want to judge it on.
I guess so.
I would say it's the game itself and not the hardware, because even if... Are you talking about the controller?
Yeah, I'm thinking like the way, like holding the N64 controller and like the way it feels.
If you play Mario 64 on an N64 controller, even if it's a janky controller, it still feels better than Mario Kart.
Yeah, I can get behind that same sentiment.
I think I would agree with that. Like going back and playing them, it's more comfortable playing Mario 64 and being into it again right away. But if I start playing Mario Kart 64, all I can think is every other game controls way better.
Yeah. But do we let that come into account? I mean, it's not like Mario 64 has aged super well, right? I mean, I think it's aged decently, but I mean, the controls are not like.
Well, I mean, in today's day and age, right? We're always like watching speedrunners and SGDQ stuff, and you watch the Mario Kart stuff, and no one's really stoked about it. But you look at Mario 64 still, and people are still enjoying not only watching the game but seeing how it bends.
Outside of speedrunners, does anyone actually go back and play Super Mario 64 though?
I do.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't go back and play Mario Kart.
Yeah, that's
I play the newest Mario Kart.
Yes,
exactly,
that's correct.
exactly.
That's correct.
Mario Kart, each one it kind of improves on the last in a sense. Mario 64 is just its own experience.
I don't know. I still think people go back and play Double Dash, but we're not talking about Double Dash.
Yeah,
so.
that's true. I mean, people go back and play it, but do they go back and play it to the same extent?
No.
Well, I would say for Mario Kart 64, the main thing that Mario Kart 64 was the kart racing, the Grand Prix mode, the versus races. But when people go back and play that game, what do they play? They play the battle mode.
Yeah.
The battle mode is awesome.
The battle mode
is still really fun, and that's because it's not using its racing mechanics. Like if you try to go back and just race in that game, it's rough. Yeah. It's hard. It doesn't
But if you're playing the Battle Square level, it's like, oh, we got 3 balloons.
Yeah.
On. like turning into a
walls,
bomb.
score wherever I want.
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot
Then it
more
feels
story.
great. So
Yeah.
because of that, I feel like the only part that Mario Kart 64 that really stands the test of time is 1/3 of it. Whereas Super Mario 64, so many of those levels, or just the game in general, is still super fun to play. And
Don't forget, just how groundbreaking Mario 64 was when it came out. And Mario Kart 64 was nowhere near as groundbreaking, I don't think, because we had already seen kart racers similar to that.
To be fair, before then, the only real kart racer of note of worth was Super Mario Kart.
Yeah, but that's good enough.
I agree with that. I think Mario Kart 64 still brought a lot to the table. Like that
In
thing
many
made
ways.
4-player local
That's
gaming.
true. I wasn't thinking about there was only 2 player on Super Nintendo.
In my research, I think that was a big deal. There wasn't a
I
whole
would
lot of
ask if you actually think if something's groundbreaking, does that make it good?
No, not necessarily. Could be groundbreakingly bad.
That's a real
In
thing.
the overall scope of best Nintendo 64 game ever, especially comparing it to other ones, I think its own merit matters more than what it did for the time.
Absolutely.
That's true. I agree to that. It's still worth considering, though.
Yeah. Point I was getting there was, in many ways, the Super Mario 64 made the 3D platformer genre, right? In the same way, Mario Kart 64 made the kart racing genre.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Look how many other kart racers existed because of Mario Kart.
Mario Kart 64 kind of caused the spike in karting games, right?
Yeah,
It wasn't Super Mario
Yeah,
Kart, it was
yeah,
Mario
that's
Kart
what it's
64.
That's definitely true. Yeah. That's when Diddy Kong Racing and Conquer was in Diddy Kong Racing. I'm getting confused. Just
like
there was no
Crash
Conquer
Team
Racing.
Racing.
Yeah, a bunch of other kart racing games.
Toy Story Racing, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Mickey's
Top 10 worst
Speedway
racing
was also
race
another
car
one.
games.
Yeah.
Whereas Mario 64 was not the first 3D platformer. It just got it right the 1st.
What came first in terms of release? Was it PS1 or 64?
PS1 was way before 64.
So in that case, you had things like Croc and Crash that kind of were like breaking the scene, kind of showing what not to do in a 3D platformer or a 2.5D platformer. But I think Mario 64 was like the 1-2 punch that they were looking for, especially with the controller. Because I don't know if you guys ever remember, but when I first saw that N64 controller, I immediately was so confused. Like, how do you hold it? There's a D-pad still, but there's also a joystick, and you hold it like kind of small and hunched over like this.
You can't lie though; it's pretty iconic looking.
Yeah,
It is.
Friggin' trident shaped controller.
I've always wanted to put it at the end of a stick and stab someone.
Yeah, just like sharpen it up the ends a little bit.
Both of these games kind of explore different aspects of the Mario world, but in very different ways. So, Super Mario 64, we only ever really see Peach's castle, right? We do go into the paintings, but it's like, is that a portal? Is that like an alternate dimension? I don't know.
Magic.
Whereas Mario Kart, we explore the different tracks. We see parts of Donkey Kong's world. We have like the Yoshi level, etc., etc. Was it better to see a more focused look at something like Peach's Castle, or expand the Mario universe?
I would say Mario Kart 64 did better. Because, like you said, we got to see bits of all the different characters, like Wario's Coliseum felt so Wario.
Yeah, I agree, but the thing is, that was easy for Mario Kart to do. It wasn't Mario 64's goal to visit iconic locations.
Yeah. It was. They wanted a bunch of different, unique kinds of levels.
Especially with Mario Kart 64, we really kind of broke the mold as to what these characters were outside of a kart racer.
Whatever their name was.
Right, because at that point Yoshi had Mario World and Yoshi's Island, so he was kind of a newer character to the scene. We had Toad, sure, and he was crazy, but then like Donkey Kong, we didn't really have the country games, sure, but it's a very hit and miss situation with some of the levels where they really thought about how to do Yoshi's levels, but then like out of the blue, like Wario Coliseum level was super sick. I loved it, but it filled in gaps that we didn't know we needed.
I mean, this was the game that first gave voices to Luigi, Wario, Yoshi, Donkey Kong, Bowser, Toad. They really had their voices show up there. Because before that, we had Mario and Peach from Mario 64, and that's it.
But it's not like they really introduced a lot of character, personality traits or anything. They're just like that's pretty much it.
Super Mario 64 wasn't actually, I think, the first time we hear Charles Martinet.
No.
Yeah, that was Mario.
I mean, in general.
Mario 2.
That's a gross generalization.
It
yes,
did definitely.
fine. Yes. Yeah.
Hey, man,
Actually,
we gotta
Jared,
be fair. We gotta be fair.
But I also think all of that, while great, has no bearing on whether or not Mario Kart 64 is better than Mario 64.
True.
Because when it comes between a better game for Nintendo 64, again, replayability, single player or multiplayer, I think it's the one it comes down to.
I don't care.
That's kind of where I'm at too.
If I play through a game once and it's fantastic, I would rather have that than have a game that isn't as good and play through it multiple times.
Yeah, I agree. When I think of my top 10, or like not top 10, when I think of some of my favorite games, it does sometimes happen, but very rarely do I think multiplayer games. I'm usually thinking like story games and single player experiences. I mean, it has to be a really special multiplayer game for me for it to like really like stay with me and like personally count towards my favorite games. Mm-hmm. Which is obviously what we're going for with N64.
I think the hardest part about this bracket lineup is the fact that we have not only just like iconic games people love, but it's like, Mario versus Mario in realms that are very kind of, you can't really compare them, but I think immediately out the gate we have this slant of like, obviously Mario 64 is going to have more content, more to play with it, more things like that.
It was a more ambitious game overall.
That is a great point I think we should expand on. Is Mario 64 a better platformer than Mario Kart 64 is
a better
a racing game?
Ooh.
I would say yes. I mean, we were just going over the fact that, Mario Kart 64 doesn't really have good game as far as the racing mechanics go.
Yeah, when it comes to racing, yeah.
It's-
And again, a point in Mario Kart's favor, how freaking good is that battle mode though?
Yeah, the battle mode is fun.
You did say earlier though that that's 1/3 of the game.
Yeah,
versus
it is.
Mario 64 being a platformer the whole way through.
Can that 1/3 being so good make up for the rest of it?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're drawing on that one. I think one thing that Mario 64 did really well was just revolutionize movement through 3D space, like wall jumping. That like completely
that still
changed
feels
that game.
good.
Wall jumping and long jumping and like double, triple
Flying.
jumping, flying,
Flying,
Yeah,
flying's huge.
shooting out of cannons.
Flying feels
Mad. Frankly, I feel like we've been talking so much because it kind of seems like an unfair fight. So we started talking about Mario Kart 64 a lot, but we really haven't talked very much about Mario 64 and like all the things that game did well. There was there's like you said, there's a bunch of different gameplay mechanics. You're shooting out of cannons, you're swimming, you're riding on Dory.
Mario straight up punches people.
The music's better too, right? Am I wrong about
so.
that?
Yeah.
Music is better.
Oh,
in
the
Mario
music's
64.
really good.
There's a lot more music in Mario 64
Yeah.
than in Mario Kart.
I think a lot of the iconic Mario music came from Mario Kart. Not Mario Kart, from Super Mario 64.
Yeah.
There's the fatal flaw with having two games with very similar names.
Yeah.
Even just before, I was like looking at the Mario Kart thing over there, and I was like, wait, did I say Mario 64 both times? I'm not sure.
Let's do the voting. Anyone have their vote they want to come forward with first?
I think I'll just get mine out of the way. It's Mario 64.
I'm also going to go with Mario 64.
Yeah, I mean, I can't lie. I played a lot of this Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo. I didn't even play that much Mario Kart 64 growing up, and Mario 64 is one of my favorite games. So
Yeah.
there you go.
When it comes to better made games, I will also have to say Super Mario 64.
This one,
So,
unfortunately,
I think across
Yeah.
the board here.
was not much of a contest.
Yeah.
I also
It's not-
vote for
it's
Super
not
Mario.
very-
64.
Beat down.
I'm very mad.
We're all just like coming up with devil's
it's gonna
advocate
get
arguments.
worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna get worse.
Yep.
It's going to be Civil War in a couple
Yep.
episodes from now.
Which of these Mario adventures do you think should have won? Let us know below. If you liked this video, give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. Also, check out the first episode of Madness, Mario Party vs. Smash Brothers, or the latest Did You Know movies on Shrek. We have new episodes of Madness every Tuesday and Thursday, so see you then.